Yo, it's a New York. Yo, it's a New York. Yo, it's a New York. To New York, to New York. With the yo, it's a New York. Yo, it's a New York. Yo, it's a New York. To New York, to New York.
And welcome to Crash Chords Autographs. Today we're joined by Jose, lead singer of the band 3 Years Hollow. With Matt, Jose discusses his 2014 LP The Cracks, which was spotted by Matt in a Crash Chords article last year. Growing up mostly with top 40 hits, Jose's singing talent dates back from childhood before burgeoning out into the heavy rock scene. Matt and Jose chat about their mutual love for heavy rock acts of the late 90s and early 2000s, and how those very bands shaped Jose's current style and sound. Hear about his touring life, the band's next record, and finally an upcoming tour with SOil and Powerman 5000, whose lead singers can be found in earlier Autographs episodes. So without further ado, here's Matt Storm and Jose of 3 Years Hollow.
Hey, Jose. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today for the podcast.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I wish we could have gotten it right the first time. For the listeners who will be listening to this when I post it, I had spoken to Jose when I wrote an article for Broken Records magazine about their album, The Crack, when it was first released. Unfortunately, I was using an Android phone at the time, and it crashed mid-interview, corrupting the file and losing the interview. So I was able to write the article after chatting briefly, but we lost that whole interview. So we're going to give it another try. I'm on an iPhone this time, so hopefully no problems.
That's just a slight Apple endorsement.
Slight, just a minor. Don't screw up my interviews for my podcast. So it's good to get to chat with you again. I have, in the time since we spoke last, truly gotten to know the record, The Cracks, very well, and I quite enjoy it. Crimson Ride is actually my favorite track on the record. I imagine you guys are still touring on that record, yes? You haven't put out anything since, have you?
No, that is the record. It's actually called Chemical Ride.
Oh, Chemical Ride. I'm sorry, not Crimson Ride. Chemical Ride. My apologies. My brain fart on my part. But yeah, Chemical Ride is my favorite track on the record because it's got that punch that reminds me of all the mid-2000s metal bands that I used to listen to.
Yeah, for sure. That song right now is actually the single that we're pushing to radio. It's been slowly climbing up, and I think we're about to do a real big push. So it's kind of, that song is an older song. We worked on it for the EP that we originally released back in 2012. So it's been sitting there for a while, but the fans just kind of built that song up to be this kind of giant on its own. So we wanted to try to get it out to the rest of the world.
That's incredible, and I mean, it's a very solid record. It's definitely, you guys are curating and mastering a sound that existed for a while, but you're doing something unique with it. You know, the style of nu metal, I guess you can call it, or metal in general, has evolved so much over the last couple of decades, and a lot of the bands that were out back in the mid 2000s kind of fell off. Although I hear Breaking Benjamin is actually coming back, a lot of those big bands have kind of moved to other genres or kind of fallen out. So it's nice to hear that sound again.
Yeah, for me, man, I feel like I always tried writing music that I loved because my favorite bands were Chevelle and Tool, Perfect Circle, Breaking Benjamin, Seven Dust, Disturbed, all those bands. So I think our music ends up coming out a little bit of mixture of all of that combined, which is pretty cool.
And so, has metal always been the main type of music that you listened to growing up? Was that what you were always into, was the heavier stuff?
Actually, no, man. I mean, truthfully, I'm a product of top 40 pop radio. Whatever was playing on the radio on Casey Kasem's top 40 during the week, I mean, that's what was blasting through our house when I was growing up. So the first taste of music I got when I'm 3 or 5 years old is, like New Kids on the Block. and so I grew up, listening to a lot of Michael Jackson, which, I mean, that's good stuff. Boys to Men. It was stuff like that, honestly, and I didn't hear metal and rock until I was in junior high. and I heard Creed, and I heard Godsmack's first record, and I heard Seven Dust's first record, and that changed everything. You know, from those records on, I pretty much just lived and breathed every single band that came out, and you know, that's what I knew I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's funny, you mentioned other bands that I forgot to mention earlier that I also absolutely love. Like Seven Dust is one of those bands that I grew up listening to. I remember the first time I heard on K-Rock, which is a New York radio station, I heard Bitch by Seven Dust.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is this? Like, this is not Metallica. This isn't Megadeth.
Yeah.
I like it, though. What is this? And, like, it took me actually, because back then you couldn't just Google a song title. Like, it was so much harder to find stuff. I had to wait till I heard it on the radio again, and luckily a DJ came on right after and said who it was, and I went out and bought the album the next day, because you had to wait till the next day because you couldn't just go online and get it.
Yeah, I mean, I found these records by somebody handing them to me. I mean, that's literally how I discovered these bands. My friend being like, "Hey man, check this record out. It's called Seven Dust," and it's crazy to think that you know, we went on to produce a record, and how, you know, close I got to be with those guys is pretty amazing.
That's pretty awesome. So you said that you got into the heavier stuff back in junior high school. Is that when you first started singing and writing rock music too, or did that come later?
Yeah, I actually started in high school, actually performing, but I had sang my whole life. Even being around that top 40 stuff, I just had a slightly different singing voice. You know, I was in choir, and you know, growing up in grade school and junior high, and then when the rock stuff hit, I started dabbling in little bands on school and everything like that, and started singing a little more aggressive. But it wasn't until I met Tony, our guitar player, when I was a senior in high school, just right after I graduated high school. And I was young, you know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how to use my voice, and Tony had been around the scene for a little while, so I didn't really craft my rock voice, you know, until over the next 4 years, kind of working with him and putting together what would eventually become 3 Years Hollow.
Awesome. And so I also remember in the article I wrote that there was a little bit of an interesting story behind the band's name, 3 Years Hollow, and that wasn't actually your original name when you guys formed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we put out a record, Tony and I, with 3 other members, or 2 other members, I'm sorry, Hollow. And in the band Hollow for 3 years, we started getting some attention, and we were talking to a label, and they pretty much told us that we could use that name because another band had it. So we had built up a little bit of a local scene, which was kind of hard to do, and we didn't want to lose that association, so we just decided to add to the story, and we had been Hollow for 3 years, so we became 3 Years Hollow.
Nice. That's awesome. It's funny how now also it's kind of, I feel like sometimes there are a lot of bands with similar names because you're kind of running out of permutations.
Yeah.
So it's a problem I find that people run into more and more, but it's great that you guys were able to kind of keep the main part of the name and just add to it and kind of build a story around it, which gives it like kind of a lore almost.
We didn't even really think anything of it, like, was it just terrible? It's a bad idea. As over the years, as we've told people the story, we've grown to appreciate it. You know, it's part of the journey that we took. So people seem to like the story. So.
Awesome. So we were talking a little bit before about how you started the rock singing in high school and that you kind of grew up always singing and kind of started to find your voice then.
Yeah.
Is there a specific singer you would credit with your biggest influence for your style of singing?
I would have to say that it would be kind of an equal tie between a few singers. I got to give Snap credit for being one of the first singers that I kind of really was able to emulate a little bit, which kind of got me. But when I discovered Seven Dust, it was pretty much the genre from that point on. And David Draymond when I heard Disturbed for the first time, my voice kind of took on that style. So I'd have to say LeJean, Draymond, Staff, and Maynard from Tool. Those guys are where I took most of my style from.
It's funny that you mentioned those names, because I for sure hear them in your style, because I find it interesting that depending on whether you're belting or you're speaking or you're singing low or higher, you kind of hear a little of these different singers. You kind of made it your own voice by melding these together, which I always found very fascinating, especially about heavy rock and nu metal singing, that you can do kind of anything. Like back in the day, as much as I love Metallica, those early records were mostly just a lot of screaming and not a lot of range. And how now the way rock music has evolved, you expect dynamics in a singer, and it's impressive when they have them. Is there any part of your voice or the dynamics that you create that was difficult? Did you have to kind of learn to deliver the heavier singing, since you said you grew up kind of listening to Top 40? When you were learning this voice, was it a struggle to kind of find that middle ground?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because Tony would laugh and he would tell the story, because he would make fun of me if I can't use that I sang. I was with my voice, and I really can't even say it to explain how, learning how to I never had any lessons, I never had any formal music training whatsoever, so it took a little while to figure out when I was singing wrong, when I was pushing wrong. I mean, I literally evolved over the course of years for me to get to the point where I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with the sound of my voice, and I'm comfortable with what I can do. And I would say just a couple of years ago, when we went on tour for the first time, that opened my eyes even more to just how many amazing vocalists there are out there, and how, to me, it makes me want to take care of myself better and get better and perform live better. And it's cool to be out there and see these guys live and get a fan side stage and kind of to see what they do. It's a pretty cool thing.
Nice. Do you have like tricks of the trade to keep your voice healthy, like hot tea or that kind of stuff?
My particular situation is I can't have a lot of foods because I've got a little bit of an acid reflux issue. So I can't have spicy foods, tomato-based foods, greasy foods. I can't eat 2 hours before I go on stage or 2 hours before I go to bed. If I follow all of those rules, then I can pretty much perform every day solid. But if I break them one time, my voice kind of, you can tell.
Wow. Well, I guess you've got all this talent. They're not going to make it easy for you, right? Somewhere along the line in nature, they got to make it at least a little bit of a challenge. I actually know a bit about that. My wife is a singer and an actress, and she's told me a lot about how her diet's changed over the years. The more that she relies on her voice, there's certain things you can't eat depending on your diet. I think it's interesting how dependent you become on that when it becomes your main source of income. It's where you make your money. You have to treat it like any other piece of equipment.
Yeah, you pretty much, when you're a touring musician, you sort of treat your body like you're a pro athlete. I mean, you have to keep it in top condition, even if it's just your vocal cords. Everything is affected.
So we were talking earlier about the Cracks and how much I enjoyed both the instrumentation and the music of the album, as well as the lyrics and the vocals. When you guys are working on a record or writing, do you put the music together first and then kind of add the vocals after, or do you kind of come up with the story, decide on the vocals, the singing, the lyrics, and then put music behind it?
Our process is pretty much Tony and I will write the music, or we'll get together and we'll have a riff idea, or it very rarely starts with a vocal melody. Usually it always comes with a guitar riff or a beat and a part of a song, and then we do this thing called cavemanning. It's something that Clint says from 7 Minutes at a Time when we get up to the microphone and we just sing made-up words trying to come up with a melody for a new piece of music. And that's pretty much what we do. The music will be recorded and we'll put it on a loop, and I'll try to come up with a melody that I think is strong. And after we have a nice melody, then Tony and I will sit down and we'll be like, okay, what do we want to write about? What are we feeling right now? If sometimes I'm feeling something particularly strong and I'll start going somewhere with it, and then, he'll help fill it in, or, vice versa. He'll have a song, lyric idea that he brings, and we'll use one part of it, and then we'll kind of together, piece everything else around it. So we pretty much write demos and write the ideas, and we take it to the band, and we kind of put it all together as a group.
Awesome. And are you guys currently working on a new record? I know the Cracks has been out for over a year now, no?
Yeah, it came out February 11th, so it's been out about a year and a half. And we were just hearing some chatter that we possibly will be going in to officially record late this year, possibly December. So we could have a new record out at the beginning of next year.
Very cool. And so I'm guessing a lot of that stuff is written already, stuff you've been working on. Do you find yourself always kind of constantly working on music, or do you kind of work on it for a period and then take a break?
There's definitely breaks. When we go on the road after a brief period at home or a long period at home, it takes a little bit to get settled into the road, so we usually stop writing. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that happened after this last tour that we did with Red. We went out on the tour, and it was an amazing tour. The tour was so incredible. The guys from Red were awesome. The crowds every night were unbelievable. But we just had the worst luck with our transportation. Tires were blowing, and then the motorhome engine blew up, and we rented a van. So every bit of the good was canceled out by nonstop stress. And I came home from the tour, and for the first few days I was like, why do I do this? Like, what I had almost forgotten, the feeling of what made me enjoy this. So I sat down and I picked up my guitar for the first time in I think what had been 2 months, and I wrote a song. And immediately I was sucked back into that, like, oh man, this is why I do it. This feeling of creating something new and creating a song that people who are fans of our music previously are probably excited to hear. And all of that kind of got me rejuvenated and into the writing mode. So me and Tony wrote, I think, maybe 16 songs already in the last 2 months, and we haven't really been keeping track. We're just going to keep going and keep writing until we're ready to go into the studio, and then we'll just pick which ones we want to put out. We want to put out a longer record this time. We don't want to do a 10-song CD. We want to do a 12 to 14, if not more. So.
Wow, cool. Well, I mean, that also kind of breaks the mold for modern albums. I find that a lot of albums these days are somewhere between 8 and 10 tracks because of short attention spans, and I miss the rock albums of old where it would either be 5 songs, but each of them was 20 minutes, or 16 2-minute to 3-minute songs, And I don't think the attention span for music is as short as people think it is, even though modern consumer culture is pretty short-sighted. I feel like still the true fans of music, they want that long epic. They want those expansive songs. So I definitely think there's a market for that.
Do. Yeah, I've talked to so many people that feel the same way, and I'm even one of them. We create the music and we realize what some of the rules can be, but to me it's like I'd rather listen to the 4.5-minute song that takes you on a full journey than the 2-minute and 57-second song that's just built for radio.
My next question is about the title track, The Cracks, and the title of the album. Was that something where the album title came naturally after completing all the work, or was there something special about writing that song, The Cracks, that made it the title track for you?
The title came last, definitely. It was one of the final tracks that we wrote and recorded for the record. We were down in St. Louis, and it was kind of a group decision. It was me, Clint, and Morgan, and the guys from the band, and we were just talking about possible album titles. And for a long time, we were going to name the record Take the World, because there was a song called Take the World, and
Sure.
we kind of had this motto, and our fans had started hashtagging everything Take the World, because we were on this mission to, blow up and get as big as we could. And when we got down to the final selection process, there was just something about the title, The Cracks, and how it encompassed kind of all of the songs and all of the ideas and emotions that were on the record, whether it's being broken or repaired or slipping through the cracks, or just, there were so many different things that we could think of. So we were just, you know what, this makes sense. And we went with it. So.
Awesome. So you mentioned before being on tour, and kind of tour not always being the perfect situation for creativity. But do you find yourself, when you're on tour, you're looking for things to kind of help you relax? Are there specific hobbies, besides obviously writing music, listening to music, that you kind of have that kind of are your go-to relaxation?
This last tour, what really got our heads right sometimes was PlayStation.
Nice.
Our drummer Ryan, he's a huge Madden fan, and he had his PS4, and pretty much any free time we'd be battling each other in a game of Madden, and there was nothing that a game of Madden couldn't fix.
Nice. That's excellent. Yeah, I've been what was that?
I was going to say, otherwise, man, campgrounds. Whenever we get a day off, we could find a campground and go out and just cook out and relax and do our laundry, or set up our Pro Tools rig, on the bus, and just write. Those days really help as well.
Yeah, there's something about the outdoors and just kind of taking a minute for yourself. And it's in this modern society, it's very infrequent that we sit down and do nothing. Like, do absolutely nothing. So when you can get that 5 minutes outdoors, away from the tech, and just kind of sit and let yourself do nothing, I think that's what helps recharge the batteries best.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's a little hard to turn off that switch for me, but on the road it's easy, because there's really nothing else you can do, You pretty much have to sit there and relax and take it in. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I find that if you don't let yourself do that, that's when you can kind of lose it, If you stay from back, you got to let yourself breathe for a minute.
Yep.
So for a bit now, do you have any favorite live experience moments from me performing or after shows?
Yeah, something that stands out recently was just one of our recent tours with Nonpoint and Gemini Syndrome. Elias and the guys had me come up and sing along with them on their single Breaking Skin, which was pretty awesome. It had never happened before, I guess. It was one night where Elias didn't sing and they did instrumentals, and I went up there as a guest vocalist and sang the whole song, and it was pretty cool, being welcomed by those guys in that way. And that moment will always stick out for me.
Nice. There's something about also like a band accepting you almost as one of their own by letting you take the reins on one of their songs.
Absolutely. I know what that feeling feels like, to be on stage and know that you got to trust the people that are up there with you. So it means a lot, and it says a lot for them to have me up there with them.
Cool. Do you guys have plans to go back out on the road again, or are you going to kind of take it easy for a little bit and work on the record?
We're going out on the road with Powerman 5000 and SOil in 2 weeks, I believe.
Oh, awesome.
The road June 22nd, and we're out for a month. And we'll pretty much be going East Coast and staying in this general vicinity up to New York, Maine, down the coast, and stuff like that. But after that, I'm not sure. We'll probably do another tour, and then we'll definitely take a break and really dive into the record. We'll see what the single does. You know, we're gonna give Chemical Ride a shot and see what happens.
I think that that's going to bring you in a whole other slew of audience members, because it's just a powerful song that feels like a reemergence of all of that music we've been talking about before. Like, it really does kind of embody that kind of emotion and power. So I really think it's going to really kind of move people to the music.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. I hope so.
And actually, Powerman and SOil, I mean, those are two great bands that I'm a fan of as well, who were out at those times back in those days we were talking about. I've interviewed both Spider and Ryan on the show, and they're really solid, awesome dudes. Just really love the music they make. They're very passionate about it. And I feel like to exist and thrive in the current state of the music industry, you really have to just love what you do. You can't just do it because you want a big paycheck, because it can't even be about that anymore.
Exactly. That it's weeded out, honestly. It's kind of a great thing. It's weeded out all of those bands and songs, because there is no, the payoff is your own satisfaction and your fan satisfaction. There is nothing else to do it for. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes so much more work now to make headway. If you're not patient and passionate about it, you're not going to get anywhere, because you're just going to give up. It's not going to be worth it to you.
For sure. You see it all the time. It's sad, actually, how many bands have fallen away just in the last couple of years.
Sure. Did you have while you were on the last couple of tours, did you have a favorite location, a favorite place that you visited that you had not been before that you really dug?
Oh, man, we're fortunate enough to have been in all of the places that we played. I think some of my favorite places to visit, though, are up in Maine, because we had never been there before, so it's still kind of new terrain for us. And Virginia Beach was something about that show that was amazing. So really, I know it sounds weird, but we're pretty much mind blown every day when we step off of that bus and we look at each other and we're like, we're here because of songs that we write. We're here because of music. We get to do this because of that. So we never forget how awesome it is that we get to see all these places.
That's good. I mean, once you kind of get bored with traveling around, I mean, there's not much to it anymore, the touring. So the fact that you're so enthralled by it is definitely a good thing. Is there like a dream location you'd love to tour to overseas somewhere, like a dream location you'd love to play?
Yeah, I'm going to say Germany. We got to go to Germany. We have to do South America, because we've just had these fans overseas that have found us online that have been with us since the beginning, and they fight and pray for the day that we'll be able to get overseas. So I got to say Germany, South America are two where we hear that feedback from the most.
Nice. Yeah, there's something about South America that's really into rock, especially modern rock now. I have a friend who's in a band and the band is pretty much local to New York, but they have one record out. It's a solid prog rock record, and they've got this huge, dense fan base just there. And I think it's just they're hungry for that kind of music, because I don't think it was as accessible years ago as it is now, and I think they just hunger for that sound, because it's so new to them.
Yeah, I can't wait to get over there, man. There's people that really appreciate the music that rock bands do, so that's definitely what I'm looking forward to.
So obviously you've probably not always had a full-time career as a rock singer. What might be the worst day job you ever had leading up to not having to work a day job anymore?
I didn't have many jobs. My first job was as a maintenance guy at a hotel when I was real young. Then I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school. And then right after that, I went to work for this mom and pop computer repair shop. And I pretty much, ran the place, and I got to just work on computers all day. And then I went to work for John Deere doing computer support, which was another great job. And then 9 years ago, I started what would eventually be my full-time career with a company called FIFA Filter. And they sell an advanced router and content filter to schools. And I've worked at that company for the last 9 years.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I had a great job. I had pretty much what would have been my career for the rest of my life. And that company pretty much supported me and still supports me on the, journey to the band with the band. So
that's great. It's rare that an art can just flourish while existing somewhere else. A lot of times it's like either or. It must be really great to have found something that allowed you to kind of build this thing that you wanted and still kind of have somewhat of a safety net.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the company really early on when they were first building, and I really appreciate the fact that they've helped me out. And we pretty much have learned that you have to find a way to make it work. You're not going to be able to go out there and do it full time if you can't find a way to put things in order in the other areas of your life. And we pretty much over the last couple of years and really over the last 6 months have been really doing that so that we're in this thing for the long haul,
Very cool. The last thing I wanted to ask you as we start to wrap up, because I know you've got another call after this, is if you could offer, since you've obviously been doing the singing thing for a long time and you've been involved in this rock band obviously for a while now too, is there any big piece of advice you'd give to someone who might be listening who's just starting out or trying to find that next step in a band of any kind? What would your advice be?
I try to impart as much knowledge on people as I can that are up and coming young bands that ask my advice. And what I just tell them to do is go out and play these shows, book yourself these shows and go out and meet these other bands and network with these other bands and really become part of the industry and network and communicate with these people. And if your music is there, if the songs are there and you've developed something that people like, eventually it will be heard by either the right person or the right amount of people, and it will all start to make sense. It kind of just happens naturally if it's there, if you've got something that people enjoy. So all I really tell them is to just meet people, shake their hands, find out who they are, and that's one thing that we struggled with in the beginning because we were all really antisocial, shy people. So we would go out and we wouldn't really even know how to carry ourselves in these places. And I'm a super young guy, so we kind of got this reputation we thought we were too good for everybody because we were just kind of off to ourselves and keeping to ourselves. But I wish looking back that I would have got out of my shell a little bit and really met these people and became friends with all these guys who now I'm real close with, but we definitely wasted a lot of time.
Sure.
So I work with a lot of bands from around the area, and I try to help them shortcut a lot of those mistakes and downfalls that we made trying to figure things out on our own. So it's a different world for sure than when we started 10 years ago,
Sure. Hindsight will always be 20/20, right?
Yeah, yep.
And the last thing, I just want to give you an opportunity to promote. Obviously, we talked earlier about how Chemical Ride is the new single. Is there a music video out for it yet?
There is. There's a music video that we put out originally when we released it, and it's on YouTube, and we're going to be posting it to Facebook soon and resharing that kind of with everybody. So.
Great. Excellent. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Jose. I'm glad that we were actually able to, get the interview this time.
Definitely.
it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm looking forward to you guys coming through New York again. Hopefully get to see you in person then. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. You guys have a great sound, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for 3 Years Hollow, where the band grows and goes.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And, yeah, I hope we get to see you, man. That'd be awesome.
All right. Take care of yourself, and thanks.
All right, man.
If you enjoyed these interviews, please subscribe to this and the Crash Chords podcast on iTunes, where you can also rate us and review us. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Crash Chords Web, our Tumblr, and our YouTube channel. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post in the comment area below each post. And keep the discussion going, because remember, music is life, and life is good.